Yeah. So this used to be a reservoir quite a while ago. It used to be a dam wall at that end, and then if we were standing here when it was a reservoir, we would be significantly underwater. So it was a big flat area. It had a very, very poor kind of single-age woodland that was kind of starting to die because it was quite wet. This it was a really dank little dark woodland. It had very little daylight coming into it, partly because it's surrounded on at least three sides by quite large kind of walls, effectively. But then the trees were all of one age. They were all pretty much the same. They were pretty much all just silver birch, which was starting to die because their feet were a bit wet. And by daylighting it, we've seen a lot more kind of insect life. I've seen 3 different sorts of dragonflies up here this summer, which I've never seen up here before. Quite a lot of different kind of bird life has come into it because it's a brighter environment, so therefore there are more insects for them. So they're coming in through that. Obviously, we've planted 8,000 trees. That's making a difference as well, especially with the willow that we planted, which grows incredibly fast. As you can see, this place did look like, you know, a bit of a battle site early on in the year when we were doing all this digging in November in the rain and February in the rain. It was, you know, it was pretty grim looking, and it didn't look very good. It has bounced back as we expected it to very, very quickly. And now you've got this fantastic habitat. And, you know, this year I saw, you know, toads and frogs breeding in here. I've seen 4 different sorts of raptors in here, which again is a good kind of indicator species. The deer are through here as well. So yeah, it's made an enormous comeback, as well as the plant life as well, which has changed significantly. So what we've done is we've put in a series of very large, some of them are leaky dams over there that have been augmented with willow. And then some of them are earth and wood dams like the one we're standing on here. They're quite long. They're some of the biggest ones in the country, at nearly 80 metres long, which is a fair old length. Each one is storing a fair volume behind it, but not massive, because we've spread it out so that you're reducing your risk by making it kind of shallow but wide. And then so all the stuff that you saw in the top section was all about taking water to the far end of this so that they have to get through. There's 10 of these. So the water would have to go through each one of these before it gets out, which is quite a considerable kind of distance, really. So I think in this total area, which is just about 1 square kilometre, we store just around 10,000 cubic metres of water in total. That's quite an interesting number, because 10,000 cubic metres of water, if you were to kind of scale that up, starts to become your kind of trigger. That should be kind of like an aim. If you could hold in landscape roughly 10,000 cube, in most places you would drop flood risk down to a kind of more manageable level. So 10,000 cubic meters per square kilometer is the kind of numbers that we're working on in terms of trying to implement this stuff. So it's that scale that's so important with NFM. You can put little bits in here and there, and they all make a little bit of difference, and cumulatively you'll do something. But if you can really focus on that sort of 10,000 cube per square kilometre, that's when you start to make a noticeable difference to people. People go, okay, yes, that's definitely made a big difference. So that's the kind of thing that we're aiming for in the future. So that's really what the kind of the next phase that we're looking at is, once we've gathered all the data from this phase about what works best, what thing gives us the most longevity, which things are people most comfortable with, because that varies quite a lot. And there's quite a lot of talk about leaky dams as if that's the only thing in the arsenal. NFM is a very broad church. It ranges from supernatural stuff at one end, like tree planting and peat restoration, and kind of then slightly sort of more engineered in the middle of kind of re-meandering rivers so that they're not straight, so that the water slows down, gives its own more space, and just reduces the speed. And then you're into the sort of semi-constructed stuff like we've got here, like earth buns and swales and things like that. Again, natural parts of the landscape that we see a lot. Kested hedgerows, which is, you know, a hedgerow, but it sits on a small little mound. If that was like 1/2 metre and that was a field boundary or something else like that, that would start to make a big difference if you're talking about a big enough area. So, but scale is the thing for NFM in the future. If we really genuinely want to do nature-based solutions or natural flood management to make real differences for people, we've got to work at scale.